Trauma Uncensored.
Trauma Uncensored.
Trauma Uncensored.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Trauma Uncensored. Special episode again. Today we have Jordan back with us, and got a lot of good feedback about the trial part 1, part 2. So we are going to be going into a trial part 3, or if you will, trial part 1 with Jordan. I don't know. It might be some of the stuff, some of the details might be repeated. They might not be. We're not really sure exactly where this is going to go, as the trial episodes have been kind of a good example of what the healing process looks like, right? With Brooke, we went in several tangents because, as we were talking before we started recording, guys,
messy and all over the place.
It's yeah, and it's part of this whole journey for you guys that's been the most kind of recent, if you will. It's just like still hanging around. It's a thing where it's not concluded. There's nothing really finished about it.
In January, the first week of January, second week of January, the appellate ruling came back, and they denied Andreotis's appeal. So that, in theory, is the end of it. So just this January. Yeah. And
I did have a take. I did have something about that it was just this. We were waiting for in an appellate situation, or in this one, and this sometimes happens, is you have a quorum of judges that then take the case and make a ruling together. And you mentioned, we were told that we could be waiting, a few days or a few months. Shit. And when they're, they'll post a ruling when they have reached it, and here's that. And that was as little or as much as we got on it. We knew that we weren't waiting on just one person, that we were waiting on several.
Great.
And that was some real practice and
patient. But also, I don't know that we've talked about it, but that reopened, and we didn't recognize it at the time. Neither of us did, but that reopened. It was like living through the trial once again, because we watched this appellate hearing and listened to the defense lawyer, argue all of these details about why he should be let out and this and that. And then we had already read the statement from the prosecution that detailed out, why, all the facts again, but what was included on that. And I don't know if you've actually read this, if you ever took the time to read it or not, but
the appeal?
The appeal document, but it had Logan's autopsy in it. And I don't know, I read through that for the first time. And, I mentioned, when we recorded last week, I mentioned in the self-care episode how, I've quit smoking. I feel like that whole self-care trip for me, I quit smoking and I reverted from actual alcohol, and I've been drinking, enjoying the non-alcoholic, the Athletic and all of those brands instead. And I'm feeling better. But what I failed to mention in that point too, was I started the drinking and the smoking again last November. After the smoking started the night that I read Logan's autopsy. Oof. And Jordan and I really enjoyed wine and have been enjoying, beer since. And I didn't mention that the appellate hearing, but I don't think we put
it together.
Put any of it. I mean, talk about, if you're
that wasn't the only. That wasn't the only. That was another. We'll call it another accelerant onto our fire pit last year. Last year, in the last 8-9 months total.
But I mean, it affected.
Had to be one of those things that
it affected Jordan in ways that we didn't start to recognize. I mean, I didn't even go, oh, maybe that's what's going. Because Jordan, I don't know. Have you done a lot of work around the trial? Therapy, EMDR.
We did a lot of prep. We did prep together. We did there was a lot of prep work. Whether I would say that there has been a kind of circling back since, probably could use to be explored. Although, you know, it's I feel a little more relaxed with it at this point, having listened to trial parts 1 and 2 yesterday to get myself sort of ready for this. Brought several things back, but also just it reiterated that where I am in the moment, finally and thankfully, because I've continued to do the work, is feeling a little more calm about it all. There's always going to be a part of us that will stand up, and there's always going to be a part of us that's pretty pissed off about that whole situation. You know?
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I mean. It's like, so we're looking at the crash happened 9 years ago, like 2016, right? So, so coming up on 9 years, as recently as January, you guys are having to like hear, think, remember, talk, discover shit about this that you probably didn't have. Most people don't have to. And so that's tough, man. That's
well, and the interesting part was
brutal.
You know, I've done a lot of work around over the past couple of years around, you know, the trial and the events. We knew the appellate hearing was coming. And like I said, whenever that did for me, that's when I began drinking and smoking again, because, you know, I didn't get into other bad habits, but I found myself higher in anxiety. But what was interesting is I never put 2 and 2 together, because Jordan around that time, his tolerance threshold went from pretty high, and gradually over the next 6 months or so would get to a point where it was not sustainable any longer. And it wasn't until he, you know, was doing something about it that it clicked for me. It was like, because I was journaling. I was actually journaling. That's one of my self-care and, you know, parts, and it helps me to kind of get what's in the subconscious out on paper if I just free flow write. And it dawned on me that the timing of that appellate hearing and his threshold of tolerance going south more and more and more and more, I was like, I don't think he's ever done work around, I mean, specific work around the trial, where for me, it didn't send me into a black hole like it has in the past. That was kind of like his entrance into the black hole. And I just found it very interesting, because Jordan's always seemed to carry this stuff with such stride. And I'm usually the one to be like, trial, no. And, you know, breakdown and all that bullshit. And then in retrospect, to see it finally start to sink in to his body was a very, very interesting thing.
Well, that's the difference that she's always known. Between the two of us now, we have the ability to use better word choice, but it's the difference in my trauma has always been lived out loud,
Very
loudly,
loudly
on my face. Everyone knew
his RBF.
Hers was resting bitch face.
Yes, you're resting. Yeah, he has a very nice resting bitch face.
Where hers was quiet, dormant, you know, hidden in that,
waiting to strike at any moment.
Yeah. Basically, hiding in the dark, ready to pounce.
Where mine you could see for miles away and hear, you know.
But it's lovely.
Well, not always.
No.
Not always.
It's
Anybody
not always
that's known
lovely.
me for
it's not always
other than Brooke for a very, very long time.
But damn it, he is doing a lot of work too.
Hey, that's important.
I mean,
that's
he's
important.
doing. There are times where I want to, you know, slap that RBF, but I have to commend Jordan, because I mean, I've learned enough tools to put my foot down and say no and just give shit right back to him, which I don't think he's very used to after having not been able to do that for 20 years. And
But that's how you grow. You guys are changing and growing.
Yeah, well, but I've noticed
You've been actually learning to toss it back for a long time.
You're just getting
fully
really
in
good
tune
at it
with
now.
that now.
It's a skill you've now
But
mastered.
we started early.
We started early.
trying to get you to come out of that shell. And who did you fire back on?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about. So
Jordan.
me firing back on him is equivalent to him fighting with me as if I'm one of his parents. So it's and
Beautiful.
that's all the childhood trauma. I think I've mentioned before that we have always been compatible. We love each other very much. Soul partners. We determined that a long time ago. What gets pitted between the two of us is our childhood trauma and how we learn to respond to that trauma, our safety mechanisms. And
our
that's
defenses.
that's when shit hits the fan in the house, and we work really hard for me not to be my parents and for him not to be his, but it's so easy for the body just to go back into those patterns.
And that's, and that's something that, so many beautiful things have already been said about this. And it's already been a great episode. So even if we ended it right now,
have we talked about the trial yet?
No, not yet. So let me get us back on track, but let me just say a couple of things on this, because this also teases us to, we're wanting Jordan, if as of right now, to be like a recurring guest here, right? And to talk about some of these. For example, it got brought up a little bit. A lot of people divorce after an event like yours, right? A lot of people don't make their marriage does just not make it after losing a child. It's highly unlikely that you guys are able to do it, right? 2, the childhood trauma is so relatable because that's really everybody. It's just that yours both have got kind of really exposed and brought forth because of the healing that you had to do because of the crash, right? And so I'm looking forward to digging into some of these topics even further as we have Jordan back. Now let's get into some trial stuff. Before that, I did want to give a shout out really quick to some of our folks that are following and do a quick couple of announcements, because that was like a cold open.
I know. We've not done that before.
But it was kind of cool. I like it.
Have we lost people at this point?
No,
I mean, we're 15 minutes
No,
into it.
I don't think so. You guys are so listening to you talk about this is very entertaining. So if anybody lost it at this point, there was no way. But a quick shout out. Thank you so much for everyone who subscribed to our newsletter. It lets you know when new episodes drop, so make sure you get signed up for that so you don't miss it. Go follow us and subscribe if you enjoy this. If this is your first episode, of course, go back to the crash so we don't have to do a recap every time. It's the first episode. And then one quick thing before we jump right in that I wanted to make sure we keep doing as a habit is to give a shout out to people who leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts. This one comes from K_HY, 5 stars, heart emoji. Very good. Not only the information, but the rawness and truth, the actual facts as well. One realizes, but great info for help for those who are not alone. Beautifully done. Thank you so much for that. And I think that I'm glad we picked that specific review because it's very much on display. The rawness of it is very much on display already on this one. Okay, so let me jump into a question real quick about the trial, Jordan. And since we have you here, you listened to parts 1 and part 2. You mentioned there were some things that kind of came back to you that were highlighted for you. But from a 30,000 foot view, when you look back and you think back as through this moment with Andriotis, the civil, the criminal, all of that, all of the different aspects, the years it took to kind of get it going. What is your general outlook or feeling that comes from it? Is it dark? Is there some hope in there? Is it just dreadful? Is it anxiety? What's the overarching kind of thought or emotion that blankets it, or is there multiple? What are those?
It's all of those things. It's every one of those things, like in a ball. Oof. I recognize, I don't know how it was for you, although I can guess, but I can go back and pinpoint all of those emotions, all of those feelings. The whole wheel is represented in the totality of the trial, of the criminal trial experience, because of the timeline, as we talked about. There was no way that this was going to move forward quickly. It was never going to. Part of the equation you mentioned was that originally the trial was supposed to begin like right at the beginning of 2020, and I can't remember the detail that you talked about that as reasons why that Bill Cato gave, but ultimately our push for the phone information, the phone and the use of the phone, all the shit he was doing on the phone, which she said, or she mentioned that we were aware of a lot of it from one standpoint, but we didn't have the forensics to prove it from the other side. So all of that was still in the works as far as that portion of the investigation. And to us, that was everything. There were people along the way that said, well, his speed alone could get it done. And there are other people who's like, well, no, his speed won't necessarily get it done. I mean, it's that two sides of the coin, and that would have been bad.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
All good. For those of you only listening, Brooke almost just fried their entire audio system by spilling a drink.
That sure
Yeah, little Scarlett just about got a bath with whatever you got mixed there. Hot
Don't know
stuff.
if you know,
It's
but
my
electronics
latte.
and water liquid
No,
things.
it's a latte.
They don't mix. Kind of
Nespresso.
like texting and driving.
That's
don't mix.
right.
Look at that.
That's right.
And we're not sponsored by Dunkin' Donuts or whatever you have there.
I said
but we
Nespresso.
could be.
Nespresso.
We're not sponsored by Nespresso, but we could be.
We could be. And,
But-
in my little Gregory's Logan cup, which
Love that.
I know. Isn't that great? I'm going to tattoo that.
So-
on my-
You put the
Okay,
name
so-
it's visible.
So you were saying,
hard to say.
that there's the forensics you were able to pull, and was it enough? Was it not enough?
Well, that the actual right people were able to furnish, were able to put all of the eggs in the basket, so to speak.
Yeah.
To put everything together, to be able to point out what was in play, what was happening, and that just wasn't there yet. That whole thing happened it seemed in a very, very slow, very elapsed way.
Yep.
And then COVID happens. You guys didn't mention really. She said January 3rd of 2020. COVID was official within a month. If we go back or so.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was like
there
late
are
March, early April.
varying opinions on that. This family, having already endured child loss, we were locked down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The beginning of February, we were already kind of, oh shit. I remember going to 2 concerts in January of that year, and the second one I found out later that the front guy in the band that I was going to see probably had COVID when I saw him.
Wow.
Because he was pretty sure that he had got it in New York a week or so ahead of time. It was like, but
Crazy.
so there was all this time that had already kind of gone by, and then COVID happens, which is effectively a 2 to 2.5 year break in the cycle of court happenings.
Yeah, everything gets pushed, or it just slows it all down.
And they had also told us that, with this being, that this was going to be maybe I wouldn't say this wrong, but do you remember some mention about how they talked about this one's going to be saved for and allowed more time almost because of its seriousness, or it's I don't
Because of the nature of it, it was just going to be a little bit more.
Maybe I don't know.
Something.
It's just delayed a little bit. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
and all that makes sense. I mean, the stress of just having to delay. I mean, I think I told you, Brooke, but Jordan, one of my good friends, he was on a road trip, and he's like, "Oh, let me check what Andres is doing." Started listening to the podcast. Shout out Josh if you're listening. And he texted me. He's like, "Dude, this is crazy. The fact that there was first of all, the wait for justice took so long. Mm-hmm. And then there was the aspect of, I'm sending a man, like our goal is to send a person who has a wife and kid, or kids to jail for pretty much his whole life or the remaining of his life. And but at the same time, he killed my son. And so then should I feel guilty for wanting justice? Should I feel guilty for feeling sympathy? Like, what a weird.
It's the ultimate mind fuck. That's what it is. It's the ultimate mind fuck.
Crazy.
A lot of time has been spent in therapy on that exact little talking point.
Yeah.
And we talked about
both of us and individually,
and with Austin. That was part of where column A came from.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we talked about that too.
We had to learn to recognize that, yes, while if we're really following along with the story as you explained it, we told Bill Cato in his office in October of 2017, yes, do it. If that's what you're ultimately asking and waiting for, is to hear us say yes, go. That was just a push the button on the investigation.
Yeah. Oof.
Beyond that, everything else was, there were other people in the works making the decisions. It wasn't us, but it was that recognition that we had to come to learn to understand and wrap ourselves around the fact that this is not us pushing the buttons. By the time it gets to trial, there is a judge involved. There's a prosecution and a defense team, and there is a jury. There's a jury. The jury decided to convict.
Yeah.
We didn't have any say whatsoever during the actual trial, other than when we testified.
Because it was the state of Florida versus Gregory.
Yeah, and you guys were just witnesses in all of this.
That. Yes, exactly.
So
we were only
you guys were not the prosecution side of it. You guys were just the witnesses that happened. But it just happened to be that your son was the one that was murdered. Essentially, he was killed. So let me ask you this: did you guys know when you hit go that it was going to be 30 years, or it was potentially going to be 30 years? You didn't even know at that point.
Well, no, because it wasn't until Rebecca Pettit had called, and I think it was the day that
we wouldn't know yet because the charges.
Yeah,
that was to go to.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure when she called us while we were traveling to Tallahassee in February of 2018, I'm pretty sure when she said we picked him up. Also, hello, Rebecca. Love you. And I know she's listening. So my heart's full for that, but
leave us a review, Rebecca.
Yeah, right. Please. But I'm pretty sure that whenever they arrested him, when she called, she told us what each of the counts were for and how much he stood to serve. And that's how you
found. That's probably when you found out.
I'm pretty sure.
So, and I mean, even if you knew, like, so here's a real because this is a true, and this comes up in different ways for different people in different situations of trauma. But there is a part of you that, how do I say this? Okay, let's just put it this way. You guys, it might seem that the way we're talking about this, that you guys were the first domino that led to, his conviction. But in reality, he was the first domino. Mm-hmm. You guys were the second domino that was teetering on falling or not falling to hit the next one. And you guys decided to go, you know what? Yes, let's go for justice.
Would you? Are we the second domino? Because as I've mentioned before, the FHP was in Bill Cato's office before we were.
Yeah, but it's also. That's true.
And Joe,
but if you guys had said no, it wouldn't have gone to court, right? I mean, it would have been like,
well, I don't. I don't know.
We don't.
Who's to
it's
say?
Hard to say. Mm-hmm. It's hard to say, but ultimately, it's kind of that talking point goes right along with the idea that I've always shared with people. Look. I know that Gregory Andreotis did not set out to kill Logan Andrew Scherer that day. Mm-hmm. But what he was doing was going to kill somebody on the road.
Yes.
If he had hit the guy, if our vehicle hadn't been there and he hit the car that in the actual crash was directly in front of us, the grown man in his little Nissan Sentra, that guy's dead.
Yeah, he would have killed
He's
somebody.
in a smaller car than us that would have it just, I mean, that's the most likely way that takes place. And someone else is dead, you know, and it comes back down to his choices, his decisions, and what he was doing.
We just happened to be the sitting ducks.
Yeah.
He was, Jordan always says he was going to kill someone that day. We just happened to be the one that took the fall for his reckless choices.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about this before on the show where, you know, when you pick up your phone and you are driving, you might kill someone. That's there's enough ads, there's enough things in the movies, like there's enough people telling you, there's enough chatter on the radio or on podcasts, things like this, that people know if you're not first of all, you're not supposed to. It's like drunk driving too, right? It's like, you could kill someone. I mean, you could kill someone sober, paying attention when you're driving, because you're driving a weapon. You're driving.
Absolutely.
Right. So when you do something to distract yourself while you're it's like, that you could potentially do that. When he was on his phone, it's not like it was a foreign concept to him. He just had discovered distracted driving for the first time. He wasn't the first person to think, oh, maybe I could send that text message or log into that Gmail account while I'm driving 80 miles an hour down the road. It wasn't like that was the first time someone, so he knew. He didn't think it would happen to him, but that's kind of the fucking nature of all of these situations, and situations like this that kill people is, I just never thought it would happen to me. The number of times, well, yeah, man, it happened to you. You made a choice. You knew what that choice, worst case scenario, could do. And in fact, worst case scenario, he could have killed all of you. He could have killed multiple, so it could have gotten even worse. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so for at that point, you just got to go, no, I'm sorry. I know there's a family at home. I know that there's people that care about you. And I know this is going to utterly change and kind of set up a life for you that is going to be pretty permanent. But this was not new to you. This is not a novelty idea. You knew what the heck you were doing.
Well, and interestingly, the judge alluded to at sentencing the fact that had this trial happened in 2020 as it would have supposed to, they would have gone completely differently. I mean,
he was tuned into the times from the standpoint, because it was the same judge was over the criminal case from beginning to end, outside of the appellate part most recently, but it was Judge Toner was aware of technology's leaps forward. So everything that we had been talking about in our nonprofit work, everything that we had been talking about, well, yeah, you guys alluded to in that last episode that it was so much more than texting and driving. It was anything but texting and driving that he was doing. And I always used to comment when we still lived in Florida, and you'd get on the interstate and you'd be driving along, somebody next to you watching a movie. We're like, well, yeah, the technology allows for, at this point, it's this, streaming capability is so good, or, just out in
the ether,
3G, 4G land at that point, I guess we're talking that you could literally stream a Netflix movie right up there on your dash. Or if you had to be holding the fucking thing on top of that, and I've known people that mounted iPads on their dash for years. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, that's going to lead to problems.
We were told too that I do believe Judge Toner had been watching us too when we had the nonprofit. I think he was keeping an overview because we were, very public about it. We had, when Facebook was a thing, we had a huge following there, and we were, in all the, Florida newspapers and all over, Florida media.
That was going to be another thing I wanted to ask you both about this, because we kind of touched on it a little bit, Brooke, but now that Jordan's here, maybe this will be helpful. But on top of it all, we did touch on this, Brooke, but On top of it all, the case is making news. I mean, you got reporters in your face. You got people trying to ask you questions that are just
We were on
uncomfortable.
the Tampa, Florida's equivalent of, I don't know, the Today Show or the whatever the big network
Yeah.
morning shows are
Yeah.
for the U.S. We were on that in Tampa. I think it was I don't remember if it was the NBC one but we were on Good Day Tampa Bay or Good Morning Tampa Bay or one. Now
It's been
I'm
a while.
botching
It's
it.
been, no,
But
it's
we
been a
were
while.
on that, and it was
Yeah.
with the regular morning host who was all bubbly and happy, and then then we get on to tell that story, and it's just like for every time that you've ever seen that sort of interview on the Today Show or Good Morning America, and you're like, what are they doing at 7:00 in the morning with this, or
Yeah.
8:30? You're like, did I just whoa,
I'm just
and
trying to have my coffee,
that whole
man.
thing was a little weird. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we did a lot, but we thought, and we were at the time, we were doing good things to honor Logan, to honor our family, to find some vindication or justice for Logan. What we didn't realize while we were doing all of this was that the more we talked about it, the more we relived it, that those were just little traumas that added into larger traumas because we didn't have the work and the tools behind us to keep our bodies regulated. So it would just kind of little by little just pile heavier and heavier and heavier
Digging
on,
yourselves deeper.
yep, on top of what
the
we already
entire
had.
time.
Yep.
I couldn't
And
see it, and I would push Brooke because, as she said very clearly on here, she saw everything that day. And I would push my wife to tell her story whenever we would be in those, in those situations. And it took me a really long time to be able to see the actual cost
I mean,
to both of us, but especially to Brooke. And I've had to do a lot of work just there and feeling immense guilt, massive guilt for putting her through that, not being able to see it. But I also know that neither of us did.
I mean, that's the thing it's just, this is something that's so rare. And even for people who've been through something similar before, there's no like community group, but they tell you, hey, keep in mind, this is going to happen to you. Keep in mind when this might happen to you. Like even like when we went through our trauma stuff last year with the NICU, there was a lot of support groups. There was like parent meetings and stuff like that.
Right.
Like that exists. And I'm sure there's grief groups, but there's not a grief group for people who are like, oh, are you grieving and you lost someone and you're going through a case that's getting national and very, very high intensity and views and attention because of the nature of it. Oh, there's a group of people for that.
no, actually, the first time we really heard any of that, honestly, and not just that, but also, what are you doing running a nonprofit by yourself?
Oh, Jesus.
All of these. Yeah, the first person to actually put that in front of us was Kevin, our CPA. Kevin was like, "What the fuck are you doing? You are doing this without any sort of support and you're doing this on your own." And nobody else was there. I mean, in our grief groups God knows there was no trauma person around for us to be like, slow down, time out. What the hell? So we just kept out of
We thought we were doing the best thing for us, the best thing for the legacy of Logan. I mean, we even had what was the motto, the legacy,
I'm gonna have to. How do I not remember this?
That's kind of sucks, but we'll have to find that. But anyway,
the drive, the hope, the legacy.
The drive, the hope, the legacy, and you're just like, what are these people asking for themselves?
Yeah.
They have no idea what they're doing.
But how many other people in our lives were able to see that? I mean, nobody else. They just saw, and we were very well supported by the communities, both in Florida and when we moved back to Indianapolis, by, certain family members, by people just in our lives in general. but that's going to circle back to why we're sitting here today, because nobody told us you're fucking yourself. You think you're doing the right
You're digging
thing,
a bigger hole,
but you are going to hit and I mean, for me, it happened, I mean, it was a culmination of things, but I remember going to present the first time I noticed I actually got physically ill before a presentation. We were in Florida and we had met this family actually at Alani in Hawaii, which, go figure, they sat next to us at a luau, and he owns, what's the business that they own? Not that it matters, but we went.
He owns a heating and air company in Tampa Bay.
Oh yeah. So we went. So
whoa.
what we would do is we would, Airtron in Indianapolis. I got in contact with them the first Christmas we were back in Indiana. I saw one of their techs on a cell phone while driving, and I pulled off the interstate and I called immediately, and we ended up going in and talking to them and their employees about the dangers of distracted driving. But that morning that we were in Florida, and I was pregnant with Mila, so I think I just shrugged it off as pregnancy at the time, but I didn't have any other morning sickness. So now that I look back at it, it's like, But I remember we were driving over there. We had stopped. We got a little bit of breakfast. We were driving over, and I worked it up in my head so much that I was physically ill. And Jordan had to start the presentation. I was sitting in the car, and I came in and was sitting in a chair, and he gave the presentation, where generally I would do the majority of, I mean, I'm a professor, right? So I get up
so
and
you got the lecturing experience and stuff.
And plus the things, I mean, I saw the things, right? But in that one, he had to take the wheel and do the presentation, because I thought I was going to be sick. So,
wow.
And that's the thing, like we were saying, I
didn't remember that. But I do now that you're talking about it, but I had forgotten that happened. Yeah, because my angle with most of those presentations was I'm the one barking the statistics later, after she tells the story, barking the statistics, talking about what it does to a company and the employment viability of said of the individuals working for them or no longer working for them, or them having the ability to be employed by the company. It's like, what do you think a settlement does to most companies?
Yeah, something like that large.
Well, in the very least, it makes them uninsurable. And that's brutal. Bad news.
Yeah. So even just for the bottom dollar, just make sure you're on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you guys, this might be a stupid question, but I wanted to ask you guys about this. When you are going through something like this, there's so much drama on TV about how trials work, about the jury and the judge and all this stuff. And then you walk into an actual courtroom, you're like, this is not what it looks like on Law and Order. What is this? Or whatever. Did you guys, when you guys were going through the trial, were there any things that surprised you about the proceeding, about how quickly the jury moves or how slowly it moves, or anything about this actual legal proceedings of how the courtroom operates that would surprise you, or just you guys were not prepared for?
Well, I mean, we didn't have any sort of background or experience to compare it to, but I know I was immediately fascinated by jury selection. So I thought the day the trial started, it was going to be boom, we go into it. But the first day was, just all listening to jurors, but the whole process of it was just fascinating on, how they select them, and, the process they go through for both sides to say yay or nay, and then they can do this and do that, and push one to the side for later if they think it's going to be beneficial. And it's just
because you're asking. I don't know. I don't remember how many people they went through. They had to bring more in.
Hundreds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hundreds.
Yeah,
it's 12. Was it 12 or you guys have six for years?
Mm-hmm.
6 years, yeah.
6 and 2. 6 and 2.
Right. Yeah, whatever that word is.
Standbys. That's not the correct word.
Yeah. Substitutes.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, you have two sides of a very, very differing equation. And asking questions about bias
Yeah.
to individuals that are only going to be given tiny little bits of information at the onset, or at this point, to decide whether or not they can be of duty, in that situation, and
be objective instead
to be
of
objective,
subjective.
Have you guys been in jury duty before?
No.
Oh, dude.
You know what? Listen, my dad was a cop, and now we've been through this, so I am biased all over the board.
I've always wanted to. Used to get summons all the time.
I know.
And then never got called. And now I haven't gotten one for years.
I got summons. I got summoned was it a year ago already? I had jury duty last summer at some point late in August, maybe. And it was surreal. And when I got there was like 100 people there, and they started explaining everything and why it's important in your civic duty. And I was excited because I'm like, I'm a citizen. Like, this is so exciting. And this is part, like, voting and this are like the two things I get to do. And yeah, same thing. The questions they asked you to check for biases. And I was like, oh, this is really fascinating that they like would. And I didn't even get to go. I got turned down right away. So there must have been something about me physically that they were like, this is not going to work for us. I don't know if it was because I was a male or because I was Hispanic, because I was young, could be anything. But they immediately saw my profile and they're like, no, you can go home. And
they know exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, it is. I was so shocked at how that worked. I thought it was just because, nobody knows this until you go in, right? But like, I thought it was just, you are one of the 12. It's totally random. Let's go. But it's not like that at all.
I remember a lot of the jurors actually by face, but there's one in particular. I remember sitting through jury selection, and she's talking about how she's on her phone all the time in the car, and moving her kids around. She works, all of this stuff, which of course the defense was like, oh yeah, we want her. And then this woman, so I've not spoken to her since, but we haven't spoken to any of the jurors since any of that, but
Jordan's face.
I know this is how we operate. I'm just going to smack it off of him.
I love it.
But
no, we haven't.
We haven't what? No, we haven't. He likes to shorten my verboseness. But I remember watching, your not really supposed to look at the jury during, your testimony or from the 911 call or any of that. But I remember looking at her and just the look on her face. And I guarantee you, she does not touch that phone in her car. I don't think any of them do.
That jury,
but that one in particular,
that jury, when you were testifying, was absolutely galvanized. They were...
You changed them.
They were tuned in, but the looks of almost... There was a very quieted dismay. Like, you felt like it could have been the loudest scene you've ever experienced, but it's absolute. Like, there's no sound coming from the whatsoever. So that was hard to handle, because it was almost as if during Brooke's testimony that was the first time that the depth of the situation had really been discussed openly in the trial. And they'd heard some shit by that point.
Yeah.
They'd heard from the doctors, an entire, 3/4 of a day was just the doctors testifying, or at least half a day.
They saw the pictures of Logan at the scene.
Yes,
we had to
leave.
Yeah, Lori made us.
Oh my God! You guys did not look at those, did you?
Oh no.
No.
Thank God.
No.
I would have been like, no way, bro.
No, Lori, the assistant state attorney that took Bill's place, she refused to let us in there.
She wasn't having it.
I would have been like, fuck you. You're not looking at this.
There were photos by photos by the medical examiner that we weren't allowed to sit through, and then a couple of the EMTs who testified And I think one of the highway patrols she made us leave for.
They pulled them all in there. That is wild. To think about.
They got everybody. Well, they had a lot of people in.
So they had the doctors that saw you guys.
Yeah.
They had the doctors that probably saw people who were also in the wreck from the.
No, I don't.
They had four that.
Was Larry in there?
Larry did testify. Didn't he? Oh shoot! Sorry, Larry. I'm having a
he did
brain fart here.
I think he did. Yeah.
I believe. Larry testified.
Yeah.
Hi, Larry.
He did.
Hi, Larry.
Wow.
Yeah, he did.
So they pulled the doctors, people involved in the crash.
FHP, mini FHP. Joe, our attorney.
Our attorney testified.
And I think I mentioned this before.
And I can add some clarification to that. Also, Joe was so heavily involved along the way, but Joe was the guy running the civil trial or the civil case. So there was, and you mentioned in the previous ones, there was a lot of groundwork done early on. So Joe's testimony during the trial came down to the fact that he had actually deposed Andriotis during the course of the civil investigation with representatives from the company, from his company.
Yeah.
And he more or less, well, there was a lot in his deposition.
There was a lot.
We'll just say that.
Imagine.
I mean,
Wow.
A lot.
It
A lot.
Yes, it was there was a lot in there, and it had to be kind of Joe had to toe a fine line.
Yeah, I can imagine.
With what he could say, and then also with what he could be asked as far as being admissible in the criminal trial. But from our end, there was a ton of information that we knew full well out of the criminal. Out of the civil side of the equation that should have been usable during the criminal case that they wouldn't. So we were like, but we know this, and we know this, and we know this.
Did they tell you why it wasn't admissible?
Can't use that. There were usually a lot of reasons from a legal standpoint.
Sure.
that others, the defense could argue that's. Yeah, you can't use that. Yeah, you can't use that. And it's a big old, because in a criminal trial, it has to be proven.
Yeah, beyond a doubt. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, which I think we understand that. And
fair enough.
So it's, he quite blank told Corporal McMillan, that he'd been using his phone. He told her that
at the scene.
On the scene.
At the scene.
I wasn't drinking. Yeah. We covered that a little bit before, but he said, you can have my blood. I wasn't drinking. See, he knew he was enough of a professional bad driver, guy who's had 2 DUIs before, that he knew at least to offer that up immediately. I haven't been drinking. You can have my blood. I've been on my phone.
Yeah.
Since I left the hospital.
What he didn't know is because it wasn't known that you could get locked up with serious repercussions.
Well, it wasn't a thing in 2016. Yeah. Everybody was doing it. In fact, so he thought he was safe. Yeah, we were relayed comments that he had said, why me? Everybody else gets off. Why me? You know what, though? I love the phrase. I have to put this in here because I want to talk about it all the time with everyone. And I lived in this world for so long, the why me, why me? But then I have to ask the question, or the question poses itself, well, why not me?
Yeah.
Why
love
not?
That. I'm the same way. I'm the same way, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, what makes me so special, right? That these things don't happen to me. What makes him so special that he can kill a 9-year-old boy and be like, well, why me? Nobody else is getting arrested for these things. And, so, well, why not you? Because that's how change
somebody eventually
happens.
had to say bullshit. Bullshit. You fucking should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because that's what it is.
And not
because you
just
can kill someone.
him, other people.
Yeah, and it goes back to the same thing when drunk driving became a much more severe crime. It was because somebody had to be the first person to be kind of the scapegoat. Not scapegoat, it's a word I'm looking for, to be the example where it's like, hey, maybe we should have this be a more serious crime because people are dying.
Well, and it's interesting to look up
oh,
cases after hours that people are being convicted of vehicular homicide. It's very humbling to be able to see, to just look up, these just cases on
we
that.
met so many people in the distracted driving work. We met families from across the country.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Dealt with loss of loved ones, family members, sons, daughters, dads.
Yeah.
Any relationship has been hit at this point that you could think of. And people, we all have hope. There's a positivity amongst this group of people for better things to come and for positive change in distracted driving. But it also, there's a quiet knowing amongst us as well that it's like, is it going to change?
Yeah.
Is it honestly going to change?
Yeah, 'cause people still drink and drive.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's not really. Well, it's just one of those things where it is just so far away from you that until it happens to you, you don't really. Whether you're on the receiving end or like on Andriotis' side, right? I bet you his buddies also don't drive distracted. I mean, I hope so. Don't drive distracted.
His dad still does. So
that's crazy. Then what the fuck?
What was fun about sitting next to him in the trial, because we would sit literally across from them. He would sit there the whole time and sigh. Do you remember that? He would just.
Yeah, he was very vocal.
He was very, very vocal, and he would sigh and make noises, and
half the time he was trying not to fall asleep, it seemed.
But yeah,
or
that
was
hard to sit next to, for sure. That's a memory.
I can't. To have his family there is so surreal. To just see them, and or people who were there for him must have been just so weird for you guys.
Yep. I pointed that out. See, we're moving around, jumping around, but
I mean, but that's my point.
Welcome to my world. Welcome to my world.
You did give me the opening just then. So if we fast forward to there's going to be, this is just going to continue. It seems like.
Yeah, there might be 17.
Episodes.
Well, I mean, look, it's been 9 years. It's kind of hard to cover 9 years in 3 episodes even.
Mm-hmm. In the sentencing, I just completely lost it. What was I was
talking about sitting across from his family, and
yes, in the sentencing.
That's why I'm here.
Is when for people that for the rest of the audience that like us doesn't know necessarily how court happenings come about. In a criminal trial, the plaintiff's side. Or the victim's side doesn't really have much input in the trial until they're allowed to give their victim's impact statement during the sentencing. So, Brooke addressed the crowd or the court. I addressed the court. Mallory addressed the court.
What?
During our victims' impact statements. And this is huge, and it probably deserves its own time. But one of the things that I felt compelled to point out was, and this is a concept that for us has just been a part of the journey, bigger than anything else, is you kind of touched on it, is that who was there as far as support?
Yeah.
Who did we have there to rely on? It wasn't our blood family because of dynamics that are problematic with that. There's more trauma and discussion involved in all of that. But we had friends, we had close friends, and friends from the distracted driving
arena
world, that were there to support us. He had sisters, dad, stepmom, the grandma, his wife,
brother-in-law.
Yeah, the brother. He had a whole large group of family there to support him, and I felt the need to recognize the loneliness of this, the fact that it has been so hard for anybody to walk alongside Brooke and I and Mallory, our family, in this, the cost that it has had, because people haven't been able to do it. We are not tuned in as a society to really be empathic enough to empathic is probably the way to go, to be empathic enough to walk alongside people in a long game that this has been.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've had to learn to deal with. Now, there's a lot more territory there, and it's hard to.
I mean, and we've
this
talked
is going
about
to be another
little,
one we talk about.
And you and I have talked about that a little bit, but
it's just tough because there's grief, and then this is almost a different flavor of grief. Sorry for the crudeness of saying it like that, but it's just
it feels like you're on a fucking island by
it's
yourself,
just not the same.
So far away,
it's so
and
crazy.
you're trying to discuss humanity in a
courtroom, in a legal proceeding,
courtroom,
in front of people's, in front of that person's family and shit.
Yeah. When you've just sat through 2 or 3 hours of this guy's family talking about how amazing a person he is.
Yeah, and a good dad and a good husband.
We've had to go to lunch and then figure out how the fuck we're going to respond to that bullshit.
Yeah, because it doesn't mean he very well could, and that's, this is a good way to put a bow on this.
I have no doubt that he's a good dad.
Yep.
Good husband,
sure,
hard worker.
Maybe he was a good coach.
On paper,
solid.
We actually looked a lot more alike than I ever wanted to admit, albeit he was major difference. He's 4 or 5 years younger than I am, know. But other than that, he had 2 one
DUIs.
Child and a baby on the way. This is when it happened,
right?
When the wreck happens, and you could have said, "Oh, he's a very old person," or he was a young person, a new driver, because everybody wants to pigeonhole different areas or different demographics of distracted driving. No, it's everyone. It's everyone. It's all people, all types, and here I am up here trying to talk about how lonely this journey has been, and I don't know, but I was duty bound to put that out there, and to attempt to get them to get a clue. But
I don't know that they did, but if anything, I'm sure Judge Toner heard it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, more importantly, it's just that it highlights. Again, I think this is good. Okay. Sure, he could have been a good father. I'm sure all of those people who testified were talking about him in the way that was accurate. Sure, all that. And he made a choice.
Yep.
Good people make bad choices.
Yeah.
I make bad choices.
We have those feelings on top of the fact that we've always said we never want anybody else to know what this feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad people make good choices. Good people make bad choices. We all make bad choices. He made a bad choice.
To piggyback off that, though, the judge did mention how Andriotis has forced us to live a life without our child. And he said, you at least still get to see your children. Not in the capacity that you want, but you'll still be able to see them.
And that's justice. in a way,
Wow.
right? And if there's any, because there's no such thing as fair in this, which right, it's that which is different than justice.
I said that at such a point, but there's no such thing as a because it's a wonky thing to even discuss.
There's no
there
fairness
is no
there.
fair.
There's no fairness. There's
closure.
It's
People
unfair.
were always asking
Yeah.
about closure.
No.
Well, closure is a figment of your fucking imagination.
Yeah. There's no
here we
fairness.
are,
Yeah.
2.5 years later, talking about it. Almost 3, I guess, or 2. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not going to change.
Although the appellate hearing was recent.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you had asked about that in the beginning, you know, about how we felt, or like the whole idea of closure, right? This is so important to talk about closure. I try not to focus on it. I walk around in the back of my mind with this little whisper of is it actually over? Because we have lived it and relived it and relived it and relived it and relived it for so long, and things just continue to pop up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a part of me that's waiting for the next thing to pop up that I'm going to have to be reminded of or relive through the trial. And you know, that trial was exhaustingly traumatic for me. I just didn't recognize it until the end of
it to creep up on
I
me.
mean, it was what, 6
and even
months
longer for me. Yeah.
It makes sense because again, like that's what I was saying. There's grief. There's people who it is an accident, not a crash, right? Where it's like tire popped off, the car deviated, hit someone head on, and they died. And it was just that was a freak accident. Something happened, no control. Those people have to deal with that grief, and that's tough because they're
We have 2 different sets
on
of friends
top of that
who are parents of situations like that.
Yeah.
And they've like gone out of their way to not make the penalties as significant
Right.
to the offenders, to the people that killed to ultimately responsible for the death of their children.
Yeah. That's different.
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I've said before.
And that's what I'm saying. That's different because then there's this grief of like, there's this grief on top of that where it's like, dude, this is now all of the fallout because of the dumbass choice. And dumb is a very light way of, there's no word to describe the stupidity of his decisions. And so now there's no going back, and it's not my fault. Like from your guys' perspective, it's not our fault, but it is our fucking problem now. Yeah. And I'm not even talking about losing your son. That's not a problem. That is a tragedy. That's our tragedy now. But this trial, this fucking circus that we have to deal with now because you killed our son is,
Hi,
Brooke says hi, and Jordan says
where's
hi.
my coffee?
Yeah, I'm recording. Yeah. This is gonna. You made it. You made it on the show. But now this whole entire journey that is on top of the grief of losing your son is also now on you, and you got drug into this because of the same stupid decision. This is like it's almost like a separate path that you also have to walk. We have to deal with the trauma of this event from grief, from loss, and we have to deal with traumatic enough being on the plaintiff side of a criminal trial. It is tough, it's like
because again, you just have to sit through most
everything.
Of it, and I'm talking
everything
that before you're ever even there. You just have to hurry up and wait.
Let alone like the financial costs, let alone like the stress of like it's in Florida, and if you guys' life is in Indiana and you have to like go to Florida all the time, and like every time you get to the airport, you get into an airplane and someone next to you goes, so what are you doing? Are you going for work, for leisure? And you're like, oh, we're going to the trial about the man that killed our son. Like little things like that where it's all over your fucking face.
Yeah,
on top of that, there's
had
news.
That conversation. And it's always
crazy. Yeah, what people say is like, oh, I'm going to go see my family in Tampa or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And you're guys like, oh, we're going to the trial about the guy that killed your son. It's like, you know what I'm saying?
We leave a lot of people speechless.
There's just so many facets of this and layers to this on top of the fact that your son was killed at 9 years old. because a person decided to drive distracted. And so it's just so, I understand why you'd feel lonely, because nobody else on that plane is flying to Tampa for that. Nobody else.
I mean, but that also opens up a whole different can of worms of why we would feel lonely. And we've talked about some of it, but when you have parents who need you to be their caretaker through the whole situation,
all that
they're
too.
grieving, but then also the family members that, I have a specific family member, and I know my dad would have been the same way, who would have been there in a heartbeat, but it wouldn't have been for us. It would have been for them. And then it comes down to my mom and Jess, who knew that they couldn't sit through that. And you can't blame, nobody can blame them for that, right? I have no ill will. Mom watched the girls for us while we were in Tampa for a week. And, Jess has mentioned that she would have loved to have been there, but she doesn't think that she could have sat through it. How do you?
It would have been really hard for her.
It would have been very hard for both of them.
Even that's what I mean by like loneliness. Like Jess didn't have to be there. She wanted to, and she supported you in her own way. And bless Jess, love her. She's great. It was so good to meet you. Hi, Jess. Hi, Jess. But for you guys, there was no choice. You have to sit there.
Well, and that was the thing is, I wanted to not participate for a long time. And I had mentioned it before, but being in residential trauma was actually what I needed to prepare myself to be able to go to trial. Had I not done residential trauma, I wouldn't have. But it also, how fucking heavy of a weight is it to be like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want to live through it. And I don't want the effect it's going to have on my mental health, my body. And then for someone to come back and say, without your testimony, there is no trial.
Yeah.
The pressure, what choice
imagine
did I honestly have?
It's hard on the jury. Like if I'm a juror and I have to listen to a case about a boy who died and like look at all these pictures, that's traumatic. Those people probably,
for sure.
What I'm saying? That alone is traumatic, let alone like being the mom of the kid and the dad of the kid. It was nuts.
It was a lot to watch the expressions on the jury's face throughout that week to just really tell when they were feeling it.
Yeah.
When they were truly feeling it.
Well, and it was enough when I sat through I was up on the stand for the 911 call. My physical response when it started was so bad. I think he was concerned it was going to sway the jury. Because how could just the call not sway the jury? Yeah. But so he actually asked me to leave. I don't know if it was because he was noticing the distress and it was for me personally, or if it was because they could read it, or maybe a little bit of both. But I had to step out during the 911 call.
Brutal.
So, yeah. And so brutal.
Wow.
What did that end up being? 7 minutes from hell. I listened to it several times when it was finally heard that, like, okay, it's time for me to finally listen to this thing. And I did it on my own. And it, unreal. And then it turned out that, part of Brooke's work, she had to do the same thing.
No, I couldn't testify without it.
Right. Yes, it was. Yeah, you had to have heard it to be able to speak to
what it was. Yeah,
she had to answer the question: is that your voice on this recording?
Yikes!
Yeah, and it was.
Fuck.
The first time I heard that, I just actually listened to it twice. I believe it or not, I had to just start it over, and I was like, is that what I've not heard for all these years? And listen, I didn't tell you for a while, or she didn't know that I had heard it. And then the other thing that, there was another point that I wanted to follow up with that I've now lost again.
With the 911 call?
No. Yes. You were talking earlier about Logan's autopsy report, and I intercepted that a long time before Brooke was able to hear it or see it or read it. And Yeah, it was. Just as we had talked about, any one of several things that could have taken his life. Several of which there's just no way to survive. And just fuck,
His body was literally torn to shreds from top to bottom.
His entire right, the entire right, I don't know, we could say hemisphere.
Side of his body
was just
there were a multitude of injuries that he sustained that could have been the final blow. It wasn't just one thing. I mean, he was literally broken and torn apart all over his body.
When your kids are big enough to know better, make sure that they're sitting up.
It doesn't matter.
In that back seat, the seatbelt in the right way, because Logan liked to
lean
when
over.
he was out of a booster seat, he got real comfortable back there and would like to slouch and sit down low. And I remember I was always asking him to, tell him to sit up. And I don't know if that contributed, but I feel like
it was going to happen regardless.
Yes.
It will, yeah.
All of the force.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier. If it would have just hit the car in front of you, that guy would have died.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean,
honestly, the fact that you three survived is more shocking.
It was kind of like
everybody has said that.
You said it in said it in maybe the first episode.
Yeah, you did.
I think it was like kind of like all like the lion's share of the force of the impact went to him.
Yep,
and
he absorbed all that.
There's some bigger. There's some
energy.
Outer,
bigger things being discussed in that, and it's like.
Oh, did we get to go woo-woo again? I enjoy going woo-woo.
A little woo-woo there. Yeah. But here's the thing. There's so much more to this too that we can chat with. So, I mean, I think we could put a bow on this one here and
people are going to start dropping off at this point.
No, it's not. This was so good. This is so good. And I'm very thankful for you, Jordan, to sit through this again and be here. Great work.
He gave up his session with Danielle today. Hi,
Sorry, Danielle.
Hey, listen, I did not. And in fact, we both drank an Athletic Golden during my training session today. I mean,
let's go.
I mean, why not?
Danielle's a goat.
Yeah,
Danielle's
I have all the things to post on social for that.
So
self-care.
Let's just let's put a bow on it here. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, share. It means a lot, and it does help a lot in these early episodes. So please let people know about this. At the very least, if you take nothing from this, put your fucking phone down when you're driving. Mm-hmm. For the love of everything that's good, please do so. We'll be back with another episode next Monday. Jordan, I'm sure will be there's so much more cool stuff we can talk about with Jordan as well here, so to give it a different dynamic and give it some variety. We are also looking to do a Q&A episode, so if you have questions about any of the episodes that you've listened to, there is a link below for an email where you can just it's hello@traumauncensored.com or Brooke@traumauncensored.com. And you can submit your questions. So we're going to be taking questions now going forward, so we can start compiling them for a future question and answer episode about any aspect that we've talked about or any of the topics that we've covered. With that, my name is Andres Gamboa. This has been Brooke and Jordan Scherer. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Love
Talk
you
to you
both.
later.
We'll see you guys next one.
You too.
Bye.